Ancient Egyptian furniture holds secrets far beyond comfort or style. We are about to step through a forgotten portal, one built from wood and gold, that leads directly into the minds of the pharaohs and the hearts of their people. By the end of this journey, you will see every chair and chest as a complex language, decoding messages of divine power, ingenious engineering, and beliefs about life after death. How did a simple stool announce your social rank? Why were beds designed like sacred boats? We will uncover the hidden meanings woven into the very fibers of these ancient objects. What piece of furniture in your own home tells the deepest story about you? To understand this language of wood and gold, we must begin at its most powerful symbol, the throne. This was never merely a place to sit. It was a statement carved in ebony, inlaid with ivory, and sheathed in gold leaf, a physical declaration of cosmic order. Its primary function was elevation. A throne was built high, often requiring a footstool, so that the pharaoh literally looked down upon all who approached. He was not just a man holding court, he was the living Horus, the god-king, and his seat placed him visually between earth and heaven. Every material was chosen for its rarity and symbolic weight. Ebony, imported from distant lands, spoke of far-reaching power and wealth. Ivory from elephant tusks represented pure, untouchable strength, and gold, the flesh of the gods themselves, was not just decoration, it was a divine substance that proclaimed the king's immortal nature. Perhaps the most famous example is the Golden Throne of Tutankhamun. It is a masterpiece of political and religious messaging. The backrest shows a scene of breathtaking intimacy and profound power. The young king sits relaxed while his queen, Ankhesenamun, gently anoints him with perfume. This is not just a domestic moment, it is a public declaration of royal partnership and the continuity of the dynasty. Flanking them are the elaborate figures of winged cobras, protectors of the pharaoh, their outspread wings encircling the sun disk above the royal couple. The arms of the throne are not simple rests, they are fashioned as fierce, protective lions, symbols of royal authority and might. Every inch of this seat tells a story. It says the king is divinely chosen, protected by the gods, supported by his queen, and his rule is as strong and enduring as the lion. To stand before this throne was to receive these messages not through words, but through the overwhelming presence of the object itself. The throne was the engine of propaganda, a silent orator that spoke of absolute power long before the pharaoh uttered a single command. This connection between king and throne was so profound it was woven into the very fabric of mythology. The throne was not just a seat for the pharaoh, it was considered a living embodiment of the goddess Isis herself. In the Egyptian language, the name Isis literally means throne. So when a pharaoh took his place upon it, he was not just sitting down, he was being symbolically embraced by the goddess, becoming her son, the living embodiment of her divine power. This transformed every coronation into a sacred rebirth. During the ceremony, the new king would be led to the throne, often a specific, ancient seat passed down through generations. As he lowered himself onto it, a ritual act of immense significance unfolded. He was not merely claiming political authority, he was uniting with the divine feminine principle of the kingdom, being born anew as the god-king, the son of Isis. This act of sitting was the keystone of cosmic order, what the Egyptians called Maat. The throne was the fixed point around which justice, truth, and harmony revolved. To sit upon it was to assume the responsibility of maintaining that balance for all of Egypt. Every detail of its construction reinforced this sacred duty. Look at the feet, often carved into the powerful paws of a lion. This was no mere artistic flourish. The lion was the ultimate symbol of untamed strength and sovereignty in the ancient world. By resting on lion paws, the throne, and by extension the king's rule, was shown to be supported by immense, unwavering power. Glance upward and you would find other guardians. The elegant, curved heads of the vulture goddess Nekhbit and the falcon god Horus frequently adorned the sides or the back. Nekhbit was the protective mother of Upper Egypt, her wings symbolizing a sheltering embrace. Horus, the sky god, was the divine prototype for the pharaoh himself. Their presence meant the king was perpetually watched over by these powerful deities. So a state ritual conducted from the throne was far more than a political meeting. It was a performance of divine kingship. When petitioners approached, they were not just addressing a man, but a figure fused with a goddess, seated upon the strength of lions and shielded by the eyes of falcons and vultures. Every judgment passed, every decree announced, flowed from this nexus of symbolic power, intended to echo the perfect balance of the universe itself. But this language of power was not reserved for palaces alone. For every golden throne, there were thousands of humble wooden stools, the true workhorses of daily Egyptian life. In a hot climate where sitting directly on the cool floor was common, even a simple raised seat was a mark of small comfort and social distinction. The most basic design was a sturdy 3- or 4-legged stool, crafted from local acacia or sycamore fig wood. Its seat was not solid plank, but a flexible, breathable mat woven from reeds or rushes. This was a stroke of practical genius. The woven seat allowed air to circulate, a crucial feature in the sweltering heat, and the materials were readily available and easily replaced when worn. This stool was the centerpiece of the commoner's home. It was where a craftsman might eat his meal, where a mother might nurse her child, or where a scribe would balance his papyrus on his lap to work. Its very simplicity spoke of a life built on utility and resilience. Yet within this everyday object, we also find a flash of remarkable ingenuity, the X-frame folding stool. Picture 2 pairs of wooden legs crossed in the middle and connected by a pivot with a leather or fabric seat slung between the top ends. By pressing the legs together, the entire stool collapsed into a compact, portable bundle. This was the ancient world's equivalent of a camping chair. Soldiers carried them on campaigns, officials brought them on inspections, and travelers used them on long journeys. The design was so effective, so perfectly balanced between strength and portability, that it spread across the ancient Mediterranean and persists in principle to this day. One surviving example, found in the tomb of a man named Ka, shows this wasn't just crude gear. His folding stool is elegantly carved with duck head finials at the ends of the legs, the duck being a symbol of rebirth. Even a portable seat for the afterlife was infused with meaning. So while the throne shouted divinity, the common stool whispered something equally profound about Egyptian society, a deep understanding of material, environment, and the human need for a place to rest, whether at home or on the long road to the horizon. Even the height of your seat told a story. A simple stool for a laborer might stand just a few inches off the ground, a basic perch for a moment's rest. For a scribe or a minor official, the legs would be taller, elevating the user both physically and symbolically above the common floor. The materials sang a clear song of status. A stool made from sturdy, locally sourced acacia wood was a sign of modest comfort, but one crafted from imported ebony or cedar, woods that traveled great distances at great cost, was an unmistakable declaration of wealth and connection. Decoration provided the final, telling detail. A farmer's stool was likely left plain, its beauty in its function alone. A merchant or a skilled artisan, however, might afford a stool painted with bright geometric patterns or the rich colors of ochre and blue. These were not just whims of fashion, they were public advertisements of success, a way to say this household had resources to spare for beauty. The most telling evolution from common stool to status symbol came with the legs. While a pharaoh's throne rested on lion paws, a provincial governor or a wealthy landowner might commission a stool whose straight legs ended in the carved hooves of a bull or the paws of a dog. These creatures were not chosen at random. The bull represented brute strength and fertility, virtues of a stable, productive estate. The dog, a loyal companion and hunter, spoke of fidelity and control. So a visitor entering a home would not need to ask about the owner's position. A glance at the furniture provided a silent, immediate biography. The stool said, "Here sits a person of local importance, a provider, a figure of stability." This meticulous coding extended throughout the domestic landscape. The chest that held a family's linens, the headrest used for sleep, even the humble footstool, all existed on a sliding scale of quality and ornament that mirrored the social pyramid. In ancient Egypt, you did not just own furniture, you wore your place in the world, and everyone knew how to read the signs. But the most intimate piece of furniture was the bed, a space designed for vulnerability and rest. Egyptian beds were not the soft, enveloping platforms we know today. They were raised frames of acacia or tamarisk wood, often with a distinctive footboard that sloped gently inward. This elevated design served a vital, practical purpose. Lifting the sleeper off the ground protected them from the cool drafts that settled on the stone or packed earth floors at night, and more importantly, from scorpions, snakes, and other nocturnal insects. The sleeping surface itself was a far cry from a plush mattress. It consisted of a tight lattice of woven cords or leather straps stretched across the wooden frame. This grid was firm, but it allowed for crucial airflow in the humid climate, a breathable foundation that helped regulate body temperature throughout the night. Perhaps the most striking difference, however, was what supported the head. Egyptians did not use soft pillows. Instead, they slept on headrests carved from wood, stone, or even faience. These were often simple, curved stands that cradled the neck, keeping the head elevated and, most importantly, cool. For the elite, this was also a matter of vanity and preservation. An elaborate wig or a complex hairstyle, which could take hours to arrange, would be completely ruined by a soft pillow. The headrest maintained the intricate coiffure, allowing a person to rise in the morning with their social presentation intact. So the Egyptian bed was a study in elegant, climate-responsive design. It prioritized protection, ventilation, and the preservation of social identity, even in the deepest hours of sleep. Every curve and material choice answered a direct challenge posed by the environment and the culture, turning a simple wooden frame into a fortress of personal well-being. For the Egyptians, sleep was not a passive state of unconsciousness. It was an active and perilous journey. Each night, as you closed your eyes, your soul was believed to embark on a voyage into the Juwat, the shadowy realm of the gods and the dead. This was a trip fraught with danger, where chaotic spirits and demons might try to snatch your vulnerable essence away. Your bed, therefore, was not just a piece of furniture, it was a sacred vessel designed to protect you on this nightly pilgrimage. Its very form held a clue. The gently sloping footboard and the raised, elongated frame often resembled the elegant prow of a papyrus skiff, the kind used to navigate the Nile's marshes. You were not just lying down to rest, you were metaphorically setting sail, your bed a boat ferrying your soul across the dark waters of the night toward the promise of dawn. To ensure safe passage, you surrounded yourself with divine guardians. The most common protectors were carved directly into your headrest. You might find the grotesque but benevolent face of Bes, the dwarf god who warded off evil spirits, his tongue stuck out in a permanent grimace to frighten away any threat. Or perhaps the fierce hippopotamus goddess Taweret, a symbol of maternal protection, would be depicted standing on her hind legs, ready to defend your vulnerable head, the seat of your identity. These were not mere decorations, they were functional spiritual armor. Placing your neck upon that curved rest was an act of faith, trusting that these deities formed a protective barrier between your dreaming soul and the chaos of the unseen world. This reveals a core truth of the Egyptian worldview. The boundary between the mundane and the spiritual was astonishingly thin. The objects of daily life, even those used in your most private moments, were active participants in a cosmic drama. Your bed was a life raft, your headrest a talisman, and your sleep a rehearsal for the ultimate journey you would one day take. This profound connection between furniture and faith finds its most stunning expression in the one place designed for eternity, the tomb. If a bed was a sacred vessel, then a chair was a throne of leisure. In ancient Egypt, a full chair with a backrest was an extraordinary rarity, a luxury item far beyond the reach of the common citizen. While stools were everywhere, a true chair was a powerful emblem of a life free from hard labor. To own one was to declare that you had the privilege to recline, to be served, to contemplate rather than toil. This was not furniture for work, it was furniture for display and dignified repose. Its very construction screamed exclusivity. Local acacia wood would not suffice for such a statement piece. The finest chairs were crafted from imported cedar of Lebanon, a fragrant, durable wood that had to be shipped across the Mediterranean at tremendous cost. The rich, reddish-brown cedar was then transformed into a canvas for opulence. Artisans would embellish the frame with dazzling inlays of turquoise blue faience, creamy ivory, or even thin sheets of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. These materials caught the light, making the chair shimmer and glow in the dim interiors of a noble's home, a constant, quiet testament to far-flung trade networks and immense wealth. One of the most elegant designs to emerge, particularly in the later periods when Egypt engaged more with the wider Mediterranean world, was the klysmos-style chair. This was a masterpiece of graceful engineering. Its defining feature was a broad, curved backrest that perfectly conformed to the sitter's spine, offering a new level of supported comfort. The legs, too, were curved, sweeping outwards and then tapering inwards in a delicate, dynamic line that gave the chair a light, almost floating appearance. This design was not native to Egypt. It showed clear Greek influence, revealing that the Egyptian elite were sophisticated consumers of international trends. To sit in such a chair was to perform a specific kind of status. You were not perched on a stool for a quick meal. You were settled into an embrace of carved wood and precious stone, a pose meant to be held during lengthy conversations, musical performances, or while being attended by servants. The chair said its owner had time, the ultimate luxury in any age. It whispered of banquets where wine flowed, of gardens viewed from shaded porticos, of a world where your back never ached from bending in a field or over a workbench. In a society built on a rigid hierarchy, the simple act of sitting down could be the most eloquent proof of where you stood. The true genius of an Egyptian chair lay in its deceptive simplicity. It was a sculpture you could sit in, engineered for both the body and the eye. Look closely at the legs of a noble's chair, and you will see they are rarely just straight posts. They are often masterfully carved to resemble the powerful limbs of lions or bulls, tapering down to detailed paws or hooves. This was far more than decoration. It was a statement of biomimicry, a belief that the strength and majesty of these revered animals could be transferred into the very structure supporting the sitter. A chair resting on lion paws did not just hold a person up, it proclaimed that the owner's authority was rooted in unshakable, regal power. The subtle curve and slope of the backrest reveal another secret. Unlike the rigid, upright thrones of later eras, many Egyptian chairs featured a back that tilted gently rearward. This was an early, intuitive understanding of ergonomics. The angle provided crucial lumbar support, allowing for extended periods of seated comfort during long feasts or councils. The craftsmen shaped the wood to cradle the spine, proving that luxury was not merely about show, but about thoughtful, human-centered design. A perfect example is the exquisite chair of Princess Sitamon, daughter of Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Its elegance is breathtaking. The entire frame is covered in delicate sheets of gold, but look past the gleam to the artistry beneath. The back panel is a tapestry in wood and precious materials, inlaid with a mesmerizing pattern of intertwined lotus flowers and geometric spirals. The lotus, a symbol of rebirth and purity, transforms the chair into a seat of perpetual renewal. Every surface, from the curved arms to the slender legs, is adorned with precise, repeating patterns that catch the light from every angle. This object demonstrates the pinnacle of the woodworker's balancing act. It is monumentally grand, a blinding display of royal status, yet every carved line and inlaid pattern serves the greater purpose of creating an object of stunning beauty and remarkable comfort. The craftsman knew that the most powerful luxury is one you can truly inhabit, a throne for daily life that supports not just your body, but your entire perception of place in the world. But where did one store the treasures that defined this elegant life? For the Egyptians, the answer was the chest, a humble box transformed into a vault of earthly delights and eternal hopes. In a home without closets or built-in shelves, chests were the essential keepers of a household's most precious possessions. They held everything from folded linen garments and intricate wigs to personal jewelry and the tools of daily beauty. These were not simple crates. They were sophisticated containers, meticulously constructed from fine woods like cedar or cypress. The corners were often joined with precise dovetail joints, interlocking wooden fingers that created a strong, seamless bond without a single nail, a testament to the woodworker's skill. And security mattered. Many chests featured ingenious locking mechanisms, simple but effective wooden bolts that would slide into place, ensuring that a lady's cosmetics or a family's heirloom jewelry remained safe from prying hands. The chest was a private world, its contents mapping the intimate rhythms of daily life, from the morning ritual of applying coal to the evening storage of a prized amulet. The most ornate of these personal vaults were the cosmetic chests, and none surpassed the breathtaking example found in Tutankhamun's tomb. This was no mere makeup box. It is a miniature palace of ivory and ebony, inlaid with gold and vibrant blue faience. Every panel tells a story vital for both this life and the next. On its sides, the young pharaoh is depicted in a dynamic hunting scene, his chariot speeding through the marshes as he takes aim at birds with his bow. This was not just a record of a royal pastime. Hunting symbolized the king's mastery over the chaotic forces of nature, his divine duty to impose order. Other panels show him receiving gifts from foreign lands or making offerings to the gods. The lid itself is a masterpiece of symbolic encryption. It shows the king and his queen in a tender domestic scene, but the objects they hold, an ankh, the symbol of life, and a lotus, the flower of rebirth, transform the moment into a prayer for eternity. This chest did not just hold scented oils and pigments. It was a compact treasury of identity, containing the very images of power, piety, and prosperity that Tutankhamun needed to carry forward into the afterlife. To open it was to unpack a king's soul. For the journey to eternity, however, an even more specialized container was required, the canopic chest. This was a solemn and sacred box, designed to hold not worldly treasures, but the most vital physical remains of the deceased. During mummification, the lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines were carefully removed, embalmed, and placed inside 4 separate jars. These jars were then nestled within a single, often ornate, canopic chest. The chest itself was a microcosm of protection. Its 4 compartments mirrored the 4 sons of Horus, the guardian deities, each assigned to a specific organ. The chest was frequently placed within a larger, shrine-like box called a canopic shrine, further shielding these essential parts. This practice reveals a profound and literal belief. The Egyptians did not see the body as a mere shell to be discarded. They believed that to live forever in the field of reeds, you needed your complete, reassembled physical form. By preserving the organs separately with such reverence and security, they were safeguarding the very pieces required for the final, miraculous puzzle of resurrection. A cosmetic chest held the beauty of life, but a canopic chest held the blueprint for life everlasting. These ornate chests were more than beautiful storage, they were fortresses of privacy. The Egyptians understood that true luxury required security, and their woodworkers engineered some of history's earliest and most ingenious locking systems. Far from simple latches, these were complex mechanical puzzles. The most common design used a sliding wooden bolt. A sturdy bar would be housed inside the chest's lid or side panel, and it could be moved sideways to lock into a slot on the opposing piece. But the real cleverness was in the key. It was not a metal object you turned, but a unique hand-carved wooden peg. This peg would be inserted into a small, precisely sized hole in the chest's exterior. Inside, the peg would engage with the sliding bolt, pushing it back and freeing the lid. Lose your specific wooden key, and you were effectively locked out of your own treasures. This system was elegant, durable, and entirely crafted from organic materials, a testament to the woodworker's skill in turning simple timber into a mechanism of trust and exclusion. For the most sensitive contents, some chests took secrecy a step further, incorporating hidden compartments and false bottoms. A beautifully inlaid cosmetic box might have a base that seemed perfectly solid, but with a specific, often imperceptible pressure point, a thin secondary panel could slide free. Beneath it lay a shallow, secret space. What would be hidden there? Perhaps a collection of rare, unset gemstones too valuable to display. Maybe personal letters, legal documents, or maps denoting a family's land holdings. In a world without banks or digital encryption, this hidden void was a private vault, a space for the things you needed to both protect and deny. This reveals a surprisingly modern facet of the Egyptian mind. They grasped the concepts of privacy, espionage, and the need for personal security within their own homes. That ornate chest in the corner wasn't just holding linens, it was an early prototype of the safe, a deliberate blend of artistry and cunning designed to outwit even the most determined intruder. It prompts a quiet question about what we truly value. What would you hide in a space no one else knew existed? The Egyptian answer was clear. Anything that defined your power, your identity, or your path to the future was worth guarding with layers of wood and clever deception. While chests secured the private self, tables served as the stage for public and sacred connection. They were among the most versatile and spiritually charged surfaces in ancient Egypt, ranging from the intimately personal to the monumentally divine. The simplest were small, three-legged stands, a triumph of pragmatic design. 3 legs provided perfect stability on the uneven, often packed earth floors of a home or workshop, never wobbling. These portable stands were the essential utility players of daily life. A scribe would place one beside his stool to hold his palette of inks, his water pot, and his spare rolls of papyrus. A wealthy woman would have a similar stand for her cosmetic chest and her mirrors, creating a dedicated vanity station. Their design was so effective, so perfectly balanced, that it remained virtually unchanged for millennia. But the table's purpose ascended far beyond the domestic. In the cool, incense-filled halls of a temple or within the silent chamber of a tomb, you would find the offering table. This was not furniture in any ordinary sense. It was an altar, a permanent point of contact between worlds. Crafted from stone, often limestone or alabaster, these tables were simple in form, usually just a flat rectangular slab, sometimes with a shallow depression carved into the top to hold liquid offerings. Their power lay in their unwavering presence and their sacred function. Every day, in temples across Egypt, priests would lay out offerings upon these tables: bread, beer, roasted meat, and fresh vegetables, all meticulously arranged. This was not a symbolic gesture, it was a vital transaction. The Egyptians believed the gods themselves consumed the spiritual essence of this food, sustaining their power to maintain the cosmos. The physical leftovers would then be distributed among the temple staff, a divine recycling of sustenance. The same ritual was performed for the dead. A tomb was not a sealed end, but an active estate for the eternal spirit, known as the Ka. The family's solemn duty was to bring food and drink to the offering table placed before the tomb's false door, the magical portal through which the Ka could pass. The inscription found on countless such tables makes the plea explicit: 1,000 of bread and beer, 1,000 of cattle and fowl. The table itself became the conduit. Through the carved hieroglyphs and the ritual act of placing offerings upon it, the mortal world nourished the immortal. Even the humblest three-legged wooden stand in a home could serve this sacred purpose on a smaller scale, holding a daily offering of water or a loaf of bread for a household god or a deceased ancestor. So whether it was a slab of stone bearing a feast for a pharaoh's spirit or a little wooden tripod holding a scribe's tools, the Egyptian table was always more than a surface. It was a platform for work, for beauty, and for the most profound act of all, sustaining life across the impossible divide between the living and the eternal. This shimmering beauty was achieved through a masterful and secretive art, the craft of inlay and marquetry. To understand it, think of a wooden surface not as a finished product, but as a blank canvas waiting for light and color. Egyptian artisans would first carve shallow grooves and recesses into the ebony or cedar, creating a precise negative image of the design they envisioned. Then came the true magic. They would cut and shape tiny, delicate pieces from a dazzling array of precious materials. Deep blue lapis lazuli was imported from far-off Afghanistan. Bright turquoise came from the Sinai Desert. Fiery red jasper, creamy ivory, and gleaming gold leaf were all carefully prepared. A special material called faience, a glazed ceramic that could mimic the most brilliant blues and greens of the Nile, was also a favorite. Each minuscule fragment was then painstakingly fitted into its wooden socket, like the most valuable jigsaw puzzle in the world, until the entire surface bloomed into a luminous picture. The result was wood that didn't just look rich, it literally glittered, catching the flicker of oil lamps and the harsh Egyptian sun to tell stories in a language of light. The golden throne of Tutankhamun is the ultimate testament to this art. Its backrest is a panorama created entirely through inlay. The figures of the king and queen are not painted on, they are built from countless pieces of colored glass, faience, and precious stones set into the gold. The queen's gown shimmers with silver, the reeds beneath them are a vibrant green, and the sun disk above radiates with gold and carnelian. This was a technical marvel, but its purpose was profound narrative. Every material was a word. The lapis lazuli background wasn't just blue, it represented the night sky and the celestial waters of creation, placing the royal couple in a divine context. The gold was the flesh of the gods. The careful arrangement of each piece depicted a scene of intimate harmony that guaranteed cosmic order. This technique was the ultimate display of power, a quiet boast that the owner commanded not just artists but entire trade routes stretching across continents. To possess furniture that glimmered with Afghan lapis and Sinai turquoise was to prove you could summon the treasures of the earth to your very feet. It transformed a functional object into a portable kingdom, a map of influence, and a prayer made solid, all held together by the silent, patient genius of wood and stone. The shimmering inlays on a pharaoh's chair spoke a silent language, one where every hue held a divine secret. Color was never merely decorative in ancient Egypt. It was a potent substance, a kind of visual magic that could transform a piece of furniture into a sacred object. The pigments themselves were ground from the earth's own treasures, each carrying a specific power the craftsmen sought to harness. Red, often from iron-rich ochre, was the color of blood and the fierce desert sun. It pulsed with the energy of life, of victory, and of dangerous, chaotic power that needed to be controlled. To paint a protective symbol like the Eye of Horus in red on a bed frame was to arm that bed with a life force strong enough to repel any evil spirit that dared approach during the vulnerable night. Blue, most prized when made from precious, imported lapis lazuli, was the color of the heavens and the deep, life-giving waters of the Nile. It represented the divine, the cosmic, and the source of all fertility. A chest inlaid with lapis blue bands was not just beautiful, it was invoking the blessings of the sky and the river, asking for abundance to fill whatever was stored inside, be it linens or jewels. Green, ground from malachite or copper minerals, was the lush color of new papyrus sprouts and fresh vegetation. It was the very shade of life returning, making it the ultimate symbol of rebirth, regeneration, and vitality. A headrest painted with green reeds and lotus flowers was a nightly prayer for the sleeper's personal renewal, a hope that each dawn would bring them back refreshed and strong, just as the Nile's flood brought life back to the land. Yellow, derived from orpiment or ochre, directly mirrored the brilliant, untarnishable gleam of the sun, and gold. It was the color of eternity, of the imperishable flesh of the gods. Gilding a throne in gold leaf or painting a stool leg a bright yellow was an attempt to make that object partake in divine permanence, to make it last as long as the sun itself. Even black, made from soot or charcoal, held profound positive meaning. It recalled the rich, dark silt deposited by the Nile's annual flood, the fertile black earth they called Kemet, which gave the country its name. This black was the color of resurrection, the fertile ground from which all life would sprout anew. Therefore, a funeral bed painted black was not a symbol of mourning, but a powerful promise of the rebirth that was to come in the afterlife. The artisans did not choose these colors at random. A specific combination was a deliberate spell. Imagine a cosmetic chest decorated with a scene of the owner in a papyrus marsh. The reeds would be a vibrant green for life, the water bands a deep blue for the Nile's bounty, and the figures might be outlined in red ochre for their vital force. Together, these colors did more than depict a pleasant scene. They actively charged the chest and its contents with the properties of vitality, abundance, and protection. The furniture was not just seen, it was felt to be alive with intention. Each colored inlay a carefully chosen word in an incantation for health, power, and eternal life. Every carved animal was a silent prayer for protection. Look beyond the gold and inlay, and you will find a hidden menagerie of divine guardians, each species chosen for its specific power and purpose, carved into the very bones of Egyptian furniture. The most common and potent of these was the lion. Its image, especially its powerful paws, formed the feet of thrones, chairs, and even the beds of the elite. This was no whimsical decoration. The lion was the undisputed king of the ancient Egyptian wilderness, a symbol of untamed strength, sovereignty, and ferocious protective power. By having a chair or a bed rest upon lion paws, the craftsmen were doing something extraordinary. They were transferring the lion's immense physical and spiritual authority into the furniture itself. The piece did not just sit on the floor, it stood upon the strength of the wild, creating a symbolic barrier. It declared that the chaos and dangers of the outside world, whether physical intruders or spiritual threats, would be met and crushed beneath this regal power before they could ever reach the person seated or sleeping above. It was a permanent, unblinking sentinel carved from wood or stone, but not all guardians were so fierce. On the elegant arms of folding stools or the finials of bedposts, you might find the gentle, curved form of a duck's head. This was a symbol of an entirely different kind of power, one centered on the home and family. The duck was intimately connected to the annual rhythms of life along the Nile. These birds thrived in the marshes, places of incredible fertility and abundance. More importantly, Egyptians observed how ducklings followed their mother in perfect, devoted lines. This made the duck a powerful emblem of fertility, maternal care, and the continuity of the family line. A stool adorned with duck heads then was not just a seat. It was a household charm, a piece of furniture that whispered blessings for a fruitful marriage, healthy children, and a lineage that would continue unbroken. It turned a simple object of daily life into a quiet celebration of domestic harmony and future generations. For attributes of raw power and unwavering stability, the Egyptians turned to the bull. The bull's immense physical strength and its role in agriculture made it a symbol of potent vitality, endurance, and prosperity. Furniture legs carved into the shape of bull's legs, ending in distinct cloven hooves, were common in the homes of high officials and military commanders. A chair standing on such legs was making a clear statement. It said the owner's authority was built on a foundation as solid and unshakable as a bull's stance, that his household was blessed with the strength to endure and the fertility to thrive. It was the furniture of a provider, a leader whose power was as tangible and dependable as the earth itself. To connect directly to the divine right of kings, artisans invoked the falcon. This swift, sharp-eyed bird of prey was the living embodiment of the god Horus, the celestial deity who was the divine prototype for every pharaoh. The falcon's piercing gaze was believed to see everything from its great height, symbolizing far-sightedness, protection, and supreme authority. Images of falcons, sometimes with their wings outstretched, were often inlaid into the back panels of thrones or carved into the arms of royal chairs. Their presence was a constant, visible link between the mortal king on the throne and the god Horus in the sky. It reminded all who saw it that the pharaoh's power was not human in origin, but a divine mandate granted by the Lord of the heavens. To sit in a chair watched over by the falcon was to be under the direct patronage of a god. For wisdom, learning, and the measured passage of time, the baboon was the chosen guardian. This intelligent primate was sacred to Thoth, the god of writing, knowledge, and the moon. Baboons were observed greeting the rising sun with chattering calls, which the Egyptians interpreted as a form of worship. Therefore, the baboon became a symbol of divine wisdom, orderly ritual, and the intelligence required for administration. A scribe's chest or a vizier's writing table might feature a carved baboon, a guardian for the tools of statecraft and record-keeping. It asked for the blessing of Thoth for clarity of thought, accuracy in words, and the wisdom to use knowledge justly. In a culture where the written word held magical power, the baboon was the perfect custodian for the furniture that supported the scribe's vital work. So a single piece of Egyptian furniture could host a council of deities. A royal bed might rest on lion paws for protection, have duck heads on its posts for family blessings, and feature a falcon inlay on its headboard for divine kingship. Every animal was a functional component in a spiritual security system, a carved and polished layer of defense for the body and soul of the user. They were not just art, they were active participants in life's great drama, from the vulnerable journey of sleep to the weighty exercise of power. Yet these masterpieces of shimmering color and symbolic form were not born from magic, but from the patient, brilliant work of human hands. To truly appreciate the furniture, we must step into the dim, sawdust-filled air of the carpenter's workshop. Here, the true secrets of Egyptian genius are not found in gold, but in a surprisingly humble toolkit. The Egyptian carpenter was an engineer working at the very edge of available technology. His most essential metal was not iron, but copper and bronze, materials far softer than the hardwoods he needed to shape. This meant his tools required constant maintenance, sharpening, and incredible skill to wield effectively. His saws were long, thin blades of copper, often with teeth cut directly into the metal. They did not cut on the push stroke like modern saws, but on the pull stroke. This method gave the carpenter greater control over the delicate, expensive wood and put less stress on the soft metal blade, preventing it from bending or buckling. Imagine the concentration required to guide that pliable copper blade through a thick plank of imported cedar, maintaining a perfectly straight line, the air filled with the scent of hot metal and resinous wood. For drilling holes, perhaps for a dowel or a pivot for a folding stool, he used a bow drill. This was a simple yet profoundly effective machine. A pointed drill bit made of copper or even hardened stone was set into a wooden shaft. A cord was wrapped around this shaft and attached to the ends of a curved bow. By moving the bow back and forth like a violinist, the carpenter could spin the drill bit at high speed, using a stone or wooden cap held in his mouth or hand to press down and steady the tool. With just this rhythmic motion, he could bore clean, precise holes through the toughest timber. For shaping and smoothing, he relied on the adze, a tool that looks like a hoe but was used as a controlled axe. With a bronze blade set at a right angle to a wooden handle, the carpenter could stand over a plank and use swinging, arcing blows to skillfully shave away thin layers of wood, hollowing out a seat or sculpting a curved leg. Finer details were the domain of a set of bronze chisels struck with a wooden mallet to carve intricate patterns or to clean out the sockets for those precious inlays. The final, gleaming surface was achieved not with varnish but with relentless polishing. Craftsmen used smooth stones, blocks of sandstone, and even abrasive sands rubbed for hours, sometimes days, to bring the wood to a satin-smooth finish that would perfectly accept paint or gold leaf. But the carpenter's ultimate test was not carving or polishing, it was joining. Nails were rare and used only as a last resort, as they could split precious wood and were seen as a crude, temporary fix. Instead, Egyptian woodworkers mastered the art of joinery, creating interlocking wooden puzzles that held for millennia. The most common technique was the mortise and tenon joint. The tenon is a protruding tongue of wood carefully shaped on the end of one piece. The mortise is a perfectly sized slot cut into the receiving piece. The tenon is fitted into the mortise, often secured with a wooden peg, creating a bond that is incredibly strong and flexible, able to withstand the stresses of weight and movement. Look at any surviving chair or bed frame, and you will see this joint at every corner, the hidden reason for its endurance. For their most prized chests and boxes, they used the even more complex dovetail joint. Here, the connecting edges of two boards are cut into a series of alternating, fan-shaped tabs and sockets that fit together with astonishing precision. When joined, these interlocking fingers create a bond that is virtually impossible to pull apart sideways, forming a seamless, incredibly sturdy corner without a single metal fastener. This is the silent triumph of the Egyptian carpenter. With soft metal saws, bow-powered drills, and simple chisels, he solved engineering challenges through pure geometry and understanding of his material. He built furniture designed not just for a lifetime, but for an eternity, relying on the intelligent fit of wood against wood. Each mortise and tenon, each dovetail, was a promise of permanence, a testament to the belief that true strength comes not from forcing materials together, but from making them embrace. The carpenter's toolkit was only half the story, for his most crucial resource arrived not from his own hands, but from distant lands on the decks of ships. Egypt was a civilization built in a river valley, a ribbon of green life surrounded by vast deserts. While the Nile provided mud for bricks and reeds for mats, it offered very little in the way of tall, straight timber suitable for fine furniture. This scarcity forced the Egyptians to look outward, turning their furniture into a map of an ancient global economy. For everyday objects, they made do with what the local environment could provide. The acacia tree, a hardy, thorny native of the desert's edge, supplied a tough, durable wood perfect for the legs of common stools, the frames of simple beds, and the handles of tools. The sycamore fig, another local tree, offered a paler, workable timber used for less stressed components like small boxes or the seats of chairs. These woods were the backbone of daily life, functional and unglamorous, born from the Egyptian soil itself. But to create the objects that defined power and eternity, the Egyptians had to become master importers, their desires reaching across continents. The most celebrated import was cedar from the mountains of Lebanon. This wood was legendary. Its fine, straight grain made it a dream to carve and shape, far superior to the knotty, twisted acacia. It was remarkably resistant to insects and decay, a vital quality for furniture meant to last for generations or in a tomb for millennia. But perhaps its most compelling feature was its scent. Cedar wood contains aromatic oils that release a clean, sharp, and persistent fragrance. A chest or chair made of cedar would perfume an entire room, a constant, invisible announcement of luxury that surrounded the owner. The journey to acquire it was epic. Egyptian ships would sail north across the Mediterranean to the ports of Byblos in modern-day Lebanon. There, they would trade gold, papyrus, and linen for massive, fragrant logs. These logs were so valuable they were often considered royal treasures in their own right, with pharaohs boasting in inscriptions of sending great expeditions to bring back the cedars of God. A single chair made from Lebanese cedar was not just a seat, it was the final product of a dangerous sea voyage, a diplomatic exchange, and immense logistical effort. It smelled of distant, snow-capped mountains and royal ambition. For the deepest, most dramatic contrast, they turned south to the heart of tropical Africa for ebony. This was not a wood in the conventional sense, but a dense, jet-black heartwood so heavy it could sink in water. Its surface could be polished to a mirror-like metallic sheen, creating a stunning backdrop for inlays of ivory and gold. Ebony's rarity and profound darkness made it the ultimate symbol of luxury and mystery. It represented the exotic, the unreachable, the riches of lands beyond the known world. To possess an ebony stool or an inlaid ebony chest was to demonstrate that your influence stretched into the deepest, most mythic parts of the continent. Alongside these two giants flowed a steady trade in other conifers, like pine from Syria, used for less showy but still important construction within coffins and large chests. This network reveals a profound truth. The golden throne of Tutankhamun is a Lebanese forest, an African jungle, and a Sinai turquoise mine, all brought into harmony by Egyptian hands. Every piece of fine furniture was a diplomatic treaty and a balance sheet made solid. It whispered that the pharaoh's power was not confined by the desert's borders, but that his authority could summon the treasures of the world to his palace, transforming distant trees into the very symbols of his eternal reign. This relentless pursuit of permanence found its ultimate expression not in the palace but in the tomb. Here, furniture transformed from a luxury of life into an absolute necessity for eternity. The Egyptians viewed the tomb as an eternal home, a dwelling place for the immortal spirit known as the Ka. To make that afterlife not just bearable but comfortable and familiar, they filled the burial chamber with a complete household of objects. This was not a symbolic gesture. They believed these items would retain their function in the next world, providing the deceased with everything they had enjoyed in life. So alongside the mummy, you would find a full suite of furniture. A bed was placed for the Ka to rest upon, ensuring peaceful sleep free from the terrors of the night. A chair or a stool was provided, a place for the spirit to sit and receive offerings from the living. Elaborate chests held miniature linens, jewelry, and cosmetic kits, so the deceased could maintain their appearance and status forever. But the provisioning went far beyond personal items. To guarantee a perpetual supply of food, drink, and goods, the Egyptians included incredibly detailed scale models. These were not toys, they were magical insurance policies, a model bakery complete with tiny figures kneading dough and pulling loaves from a clay oven ensured the Ka would never hunger. A model brewery with figures mashing grain and straining beer into jars promised an endless supply of drink. There might be a model weaving workshop to provide fine cloth or a model granary to store the bounty. One of the most famous sets belonging to a noble named Meketa includes a breathtakingly detailed model of a cattle counting scene, a bureaucratic act that guaranteed his wealth and authority would be accurately recorded for all time. These miniature worlds were meticulously crafted, painted, and placed in the tomb to spring into eternal operation. Yet a wooden chair or a stone offering table was still just an object. To activate it, to make it spiritually usable for the Ka, required a final, vital ritual performed by the living. This was the opening of the mouth ceremony. Before the tomb was sealed, a priest would take a special adze-shaped tool and touch it to the mouth and sometimes the eyes and ears of the statue of the deceased. He would then perform the same ritual on the major items of furniture within the tomb. This act was believed to restore the senses to the statue, allowing the ka to inhabit it and, more importantly, to magically open the senses of the furniture itself. Through this sacred performance, the bed became capable of providing true rest. The chair became a seat the spirit could actually use, and the model bakery began its endless, ghostly production. The ritual breathed a kind of functional soul into the inanimate, transforming a collection of beautiful objects into a fully operational estate for an immortal being. The tomb, therefore, was not a static museum. It was a charged space, a machine for eternity, set in motion by the words and tools of the priests, where every piece of carved wood and painted clay hummed with a single purpose: to sustain a life that had no end. The quiet perfection of that eternal estate held a final, chilling secret for the modern world. When Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon first breached the sealed doorway to Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, they were greeted not by a curse but by a silent chaos of splendor. Gilded couches shaped like monstrous animals loomed in the darkness, alabaster lamps stood sentinel, and a golden throne seemed to float in the shadows. The air was thick with the scent of millennia. It was the discovery of the century, a pristine time capsule of furniture and treasure. Then the story took a dark turn. Just months after the historic opening, Lord Carnarvon died in Cairo from an infected mosquito bite compounded by blood poisoning. At the exact moment of his death back in England, his favorite dog was said to have howled and dropped dead. A journalist, eager for a sensational story, declared that a pharaoh's curse had been unleashed. The legend exploded. Reports circulated that a clay tablet found in the tomb carried the inscription, "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Several others connected to the excavation died in the following years, from natural causes to accidents, each death fueling the curse's terrifying mythology. The public was captivated. It seemed the ancient guardians of the tomb, perhaps the very lion-pawed beds and falcon-eyed chairs, had exacted a terrible revenge for the violation of their king's rest. But was it truly a supernatural vengeance or something far more earthly? Scientists have proposed a rational, if no less deadly, culprit. Sealed for over 3,000 years, the tomb was a perfect petri dish. Organic materials like the wood, linens, and food offerings placed within the furniture slowly decayed. This process likely cultivated toxic strains of mold and bacteria on the walls and objects. When the tomb was violently opened, these ancient spores were stirred into the air, inhaled by the first men to enter. For someone like Carnarvon, already in frail health, a massive dose of these pathogens could have been catastrophic, overwhelming his system. The other deaths were likely tragic coincidences, given the large number of people involved in the project over many years. Yet, the power of the curse legend endures because it speaks to a deeper truth we instinctively feel. These objects were never meant for us. They were charged with a singular, sacred purpose to protect and serve a king for eternity. To violate that space, to treat a divine throne as mere artifact, feels like a transgression against a very old and powerful order. The curse is our own guilty conscience projected onto the gold, a thrilling story that acknowledges the profound, unsettling power these pieces still hold over our imagination. They remind us that some doors, once sealed, should perhaps remain closed. The silent, gilded chambers of the tombs tell us of kings and gods, but within the sunlit homes of ordinary Egyptians, another story was being told in miniature. Among the full-sized stools and beds, archaeologists have uncovered a world of tiny furniture, crafted with care for the smallest members of the family. These are not toys, but functional, scaled-down versions of adult furnishings, revealing a society that valued and accommodated childhood. A child's stool, perfectly sized for a toddler to climb onto, was often made from the same acacia wood as its parents, its seat woven from reed. A little bed, just long enough for a sleeping child, would be raised on short legs to keep them safe from drafts and creatures on the floor. These objects show a quiet, practical love, an understanding that to build a stable society, you must first build a comfortable place for its future to sit and sleep. Perhaps the most telling pieces are the ancient equivalents of the high chair and the potty seat. Small chairs with raised sides or encircling arms have been discovered, designed to securely hold a wiggling infant during feeding times. They speak of a messy, universal reality of family life, and a solution crafted from wood to make the task easier. Even more intimate are the potty seats, simple wooden stools with a keyhole-shaped opening cut into the seat, beneath which a pottery bowl could be placed. This is not glamorous, but it is profoundly human. It shows a culture thinking proactively about child rearing, about hygiene and training, about the mundane yet essential rhythms of raising the next generation. The presence of these items in tombs is especially poignant. When a child died, a tragedy all too common in the ancient world, these small stools and chairs were sometimes placed in the burial, ensuring the child's spirit would have the familiar comforts of home in the afterlife. This act transforms a simple potty seat from a practical tool into a vessel of profound grief and hope, a parent's final, loving provision. This focus on children's furniture illuminates a core Egyptian value often overshadowed by monuments and mummies, the centrality of the family and the nurturing of children. The home was the foundational unit of society, and its design reflected that priority. Furniture was not created only for the powerful adult, but for every stage of life, from the nursing infant to the elder of the household. By crafting these small-scale objects, Egyptian parents and artisans were doing more than solving a practical problem. They were weaving children into the physical fabric of daily life, acknowledging their presence and their importance. A child sitting in their own little chair at a family meal was being taught their place in the world, literally and symbolically. The care invested in these pieces, from the smoothing of the wood to the fitting of the joints, mirrors the care invested in the child. It reminds us that behind the grand narratives of pharaohs and pyramids, the ancient Egyptians shared the most fundamental of human concerns, the desire to create a safe, functional, and loving world for their sons and daughters, one small, carefully made stool at a time. That child's stool, carved from local acacia, speaks of a rooted tradition, yet Egyptian furniture was never frozen in time. The banks of the Nile were a bustling crossroads, and as Egypt's empire expanded, so did its artistic vocabulary. During the prosperous New Kingdom, when pharaohs commanded armies that marched deep into Nubia and traded with empires across the sea, a fascinating transformation began. Egyptian workshops started to hum with foreign inspiration. From the gold-rich lands of Nubia to the south came not just tribute but artistic motifs. The elegant, curved lines of Nubian basketry and body art began to influence decorative patterns, appearing as inlaid designs on furniture legs and chest panels. These were subtle inflections, a whisper of a different aesthetic absorbed into the Egyptian visual language. But the most dramatic exchanges happened to the north and east. Through trade and diplomacy with the powerful kingdoms of the Near East, particularly modern-day Syria and Lebanon, Egyptians encountered a taste for a different kind of opulence. Near Eastern furniture was often more visibly ornate, featuring higher backs, more complex turnings on legs, and a lavish use of ivory plaques that covered entire surfaces with intricate mythological scenes. Egyptian craftsmen, always eager to showcase their skill and their patrons' wealth, began to adopt and adapt these ideas. We see chests and chairs that retain the classic Egyptian form, but are now encrusted with a mosaic of tiny ivory squares, each one carved with a rosette or a griffin, creating a shimmering, textured skin that was entirely new. This was not mere copying, it was a sophisticated fusion, taking a foreign technique and applying it to tell Egyptian stories with Egyptian symbols. The dialogue became a chorus with the arrival of goods and ideas from across the Great Sea. The Minoans of Crete and later the Mycenaeans of mainland Greece were master seafarers and artisans. Their pottery, textiles, and metalwork flowed into Egyptian ports, and with them came entirely new concepts of form. The most significant gift from the Aegean world was perhaps the idea of the folding stool with curved, crossed legs. While Egyptians had their own X-frame stools, the Aegean versions often featured more sculptural, animal leg designs that curved gracefully. More importantly, the contact introduced the klysmos-style chair to Egypt, a design we touched on earlier. With its sweeping, curved backrest that perfectly cradled the spine and its elegantly splayed legs, the klysmos was a revolution in comfort and aesthetics. It was a chair built for relaxed conversation and refined leisure, a concept that resonated deeply with the Egyptian elite's desire to display both wealth and cultured sophistication. Adopting this form, Egyptian craftsmen would then make it their own, carving the legs into lion paws and inlaying the back with scenes of papyrus marshes, marrying the foreign shape to a deeply Egyptian soul. This ongoing exchange reveals a crucial truth often hidden by the timeless stone of the pyramids. Egypt was not a static, isolated civilization jealously guarding its own style. It was a dynamic, confident culture, a net in the Mediterranean that caught influences from every shore. Its artisans were curious and adaptive, selectively weaving threads from Nubia, Syria, and the Aegean into their own enduring tapestry. A noble's chair from this period is therefore a physical record of diplomacy, a piece of furniture that sat at the intersection of continents, proving that even the most traditional societies grow by reaching out and embracing the new. The fusion of styles across continents shaped the grand, but the most transformative tool of all was small enough to carry in one hand. For the scribe, the literate engine of the state, furniture condensed into a single, portable kit, a complete office designed for the mind. At its heart was the writing palette, a rectangular slab of wood, often cedar, no larger than a modern tablet. Its surface was meticulously carved with two circular wells, one for solid black ink, made from soot or charcoal, and one for vivid red ochre ink. These were the essential colors of bureaucracy and belief. Black wrote the standard text, the records of grain, the legal decrees, the letters. Red was reserved for headings, for corrections, for the names of gods and kings, and for marking the start of a new section. It was a visual code built into the very furniture of writing. Beside the ink wells ran a long, shallow slot that held the scribe's precious reed brushes, their ends chewed into fine, flexible tips. The palette often had a hollow compartment underneath or a lid that closed to protect the drying inks, and sometimes a small drawer for lumps of raw pigment. This palette was then frequently attached by cord or hinge to a slender cylindrical case meant to hold several papyrus scrolls. The entire kit could be tied shut and slung over a shoulder. To complete the set, a scribe would carry a simple, lightweight wooden stool, perhaps a three-legged design for stability on any terrain. With this compact ensemble, a scribe was ready for work anywhere, from the sun-drenched courtyard of a provincial governor's estate to the shaded portico of a temple, or even perched on a riverbank overseeing the tax collection from a harvest. This was not just a set of tools, it was the physical manifestation of civilization's memory. The scribe's kit recorded everything from the vast wealth of the pharaoh's treasury to the humble complaint of a farmer about a stolen goat. It drafted the plans for pyramids, composed love poetry, and penned the magical spells that would guard a soul in the afterlife. The power it held was immense. To be literate was to access the administrative machinery of the state, a path to influence and prestige. The kit, therefore, was a badge of office, a symbol of an elite class who managed the world through marks on papyrus. Its portable nature tells us that the Egyptian state was not a static monument, but a living, breathing organism that required constant documentation, communication, and control, flowing from the tip of a reed brush stored in a simple, beautifully made wooden pallet. The scribe's palette preserved words, but the furniture itself faced a far greater enemy, time. For wood to survive 3,000 years in a recognizable form is a miracle with very specific, unforgiving conditions. Egypt's relentless aridity is the primary hero in this story. The bone-dry air of the desert tombs sealed away from humidity, and the organisms that thrive on it acted as a natural desiccant. It slowly sucked the moisture from acacia and cedar, leaving behind a skeletal structure so fragile it could crumble at a touch, yet preserved in astonishing detail. In some cases, catastrophe became a strange kind of salvation. A fire in an ancient workshop or tomb, a devastating event for its original owners, could carbonize the outer layer of a stool or bed frame. This charring, a process called carbonization, created a hardened, coal-like shell that paradoxically protected the wood's shape from further decay, leaving a ghostly, blackened echo of the original piece. And sometimes the furniture survives only as an absence, a memory pressed into another material. When a wooden chair or chest placed against a tomb wall slowly decayed over centuries, it left a perfect negative impression in the plaster. Modern archaeologists can pour a liquid silicone into this void, pulling out a precise cast of the object that vanished millennia ago, a shadow made solid. These fragile remnants, whether brittle wood, charred fragments, or phantom impressions, are what arrive at the conservator's lab. Here, the real magic of modern archaeology happens not with shovels, but with brushes, microscopes, and infinite patience. A single chest from a tomb might be delivered as a box containing several thousand tiny, warped splinters of wood, tangled with bits of crumbled gesso and flakes of gold leaf. The conservator's first task is to understand the material, to identify the type of wood, the ancient adhesives used, and the nature of any pigments or inlays. Then begins the monumental puzzle. Using clues like tool marks, joint shapes, and the curvature of fragments, they start to mentally reconstruct the object. It is a three-dimensional jigsaw where most of the pieces are missing, and the picture on the box is unknown. Modern reversible adhesives, often acrylic resins, are carefully applied with fine syringes to join fragments. Missing sections are sometimes filled with a neutral material like balsa wood or modern resin, shaped to match but always distinguishable from the original, a practice ensuring the restoration tells the truth. Delicate supports and custom cradles are crafted to hold the reassembled piece without stress. This work can take years for a single object, a silent dialogue between the modern conservator and the ancient artisan. Every reconstruction is a hypothesis, a best guess based on evidence, and sometimes those guesses are spectacularly overturned. Recent discoveries continue to rewrite the catalogue. Advanced imaging techniques like CT scanning have revealed hidden details inside sealed furniture, such as the ghostly outlines of tools left inside a hollow leg by a carpenter 3,000 years ago, or the secret compartment in a box that was missed by earlier examinations. The analysis of microscopic residue on a chair seat has identified traces of a rare imported resin, rewriting trade route maps. Each finding is a quiet revolution. The story of Egyptian furniture is not a closed book on a museum shelf. It is a living narrative with new chapters being written in labs and tomb chambers every year. Every glued fragment, every scanned image adds another sentence, proving that these silent witnesses of wood and gold still have secrets left to tell. That fragile wood, pieced back together in a lab, casts a longer shadow than you might think. The legacy of Egyptian furniture did not end with the last pharaoh. It flowed down the Nile, across the Mediterranean, and eventually into the very heart of the modern world. The first great wave of revival crashed ashore in the wake of Napoleon's campaign in Egypt at the end of the 18th century. When his scholars published the monumental description of Egypt, filled with detailed engravings of temples and tombs, it ignited a firestorm of fascination in Europe. Designers, hungry for the exotic and the monumental, began to reinterpret what they saw. This was not about historical accuracy, but about evoking a feeling of ancient grandeur and mysterious wisdom. In the parlors of Paris and London, you would find sofas supported by carved crocodile legs or gilded sphinx heads. Clocks were housed in miniature obelisks. Chair backs took the form of a pharaoh's winged sun disk. This Egyptian revival style used the visual language of power to decorate the homes of a new empire-building age, turning the symbols of divine kingship into fashionable conversation pieces for the European elite. But the true explosion happened a century later with a single event that captivated the globe. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 was a media sensation unlike any before it. Newspapers broadcast photographs of the golden throne, the animal-shaped beds, the dazzling inlaid chests. The world saw not just treasure but a complete, cohesive aesthetic. Almost overnight, Tutankhamun mania swept through design. The clean lines and geometric obsession of the Art Deco movement found a perfect ancient partner in the bold patterns of Egyptian art. Lotus flower motifs bloomed on the fabric of streamlined sofas, zigzag patterns reminiscent of pyramid steps edged carpets and wallpaper, furniture legs once straight and simple, now tapered like papyrus stalks or were capped with stylized animal feet. A cocktail cabinet might feature a black lacquer finish inlaid with angular, gilded figures inspired by tomb paintings. This was Egypt filtered through a modern lens, its symbolism abstracted into a chic, glamorous language for the Jazz Age. It proved that these ancient forms could feel utterly contemporary, that a design language born beside the Nile could define a penthouse in New York or a cinema in London. Look around your own home today and you will see their invisible handiwork, the Egyptian concern for ergonomics, for furniture that supports the human body, is a principle every modern office chair designer follows. Their three-legged stool, a model of perfect stability on uneven ground, is the direct ancestor of the photographer's tripod and the camping stool you might take on a hike. Their concept of modular storage, with specialized chests for cosmetics, documents, and linens, prefigures our modern modular shelving systems and storage cubes. Even the idea of furniture as a personal statement, a reflection of identity, is a thread they spun. We may not carve lion paws on our table legs to show strength, but we do choose a minimalist desk to convey efficiency or a plush, oversized armchair to signal a love of comfort. The symbolic decoration has softened, but the intention remains. A pattern on a throw pillow, the choice of a natural material like wood or stone, even the color palette of a room, are all ways we subtly encode our values and aspirations into our space, just as an Egyptian noble did with lapis lazuli and gold. The most profound legacy, however, is not in any single motif. It is in the foundational idea that furniture is more than utility. For the Egyptians, a chair was a throne, a bed was a sacred boat, a chest was a guardian of secrets. They understood that the objects we live with shape our experience, protect our bodies, and express our souls. They built for comfort, for status, and for eternity, blending engineering with artistry in a way that still feels resonant. So the next time you sink into a comfortable chair, admire the clever joinery of a wooden box, or simply appreciate how a piece of furniture makes you feel. You are connecting with a conversation that began over 3,000 years ago in a carpenter's workshop by the Nile. The pharaohs may be gone, but their sense of design, their belief that our surroundings should elevate our lives, is still very much alive in the world we build around us. The silent language of wood and gold speaks a final, unifying truth. Egyptian furniture was never just about sitting, sleeping, or storing. It was a dense and sophisticated code, a physical dialect where every curve, creature, and color held meaning. A simple stool announced your place in society, a bed became a sacred vessel for the soul's nightly voyage, and a chest guarded both earthly treasures and the very organs required for resurrection. These objects were active participants in life's great drama, from the exercise of divine power on a golden throne to the intimate protection offered by a carved headdress. They reveal a civilization that saw no boundary between the practical and the profound, where a carpenter's joint was as vital as a priest's incantation, both designed for eternity. The staggering beauty we see in museums is the result of a global network, from the cedar forests of Lebanon to the turquoise mines of Sinai, all mastered by artisans whose tools were soft copper and whose patience was infinite. They solved problems of ergonomics, portability, and security with a genius that feels startlingly modern. To study these pieces is to connect with the daily rhythms of an ancient home, to feel the cool breeze through a woven seat, and to understand the profound hope that comfort and identity could last forever. Look around your own space now. See the chair that supports you, the table that gathers your life, the bed that offers rest. They carry your story too. What piece of furniture in your home holds your deepest secret? Share in the comments which Egyptian revelation fascinated you most. Was it the symbolic animals, the hidden locks, or the eternal purpose of a simple bed? If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the ancient world, subscribe for more deep dives where history's greatest secrets are waiting to be uncovered.